As a student at USC, I spent some time my sophomore year that summer interning at Goldman Sachs. I had an older cousin who worked there, and he allowed me to watch him and assist him. It really wasn't much of an intern. I was really pouring coffee and licking envelopes, but I got a chance to learn from a superstar who worked at Goldman. So certainly, I've always had admiration for the firm, and I write about that experience in my book, Lessons from Prison. And they also memorialized it in the movie My Deal with the Devil that the Esquire Network did about my story. So I've always had this little infatuation with Goldman Sachs. So many years later, rather than working with them in a financial capacity, I wanted to educate them on the motivations, consequences of white collar crime, how executives can make decisions without considering how it would influence the rest of their life, the corporate culture, their community, and their reputation. So somehow, some way, many years ago, I tracked down the number of either a corporate compliance officer, an ethics officer, someone at Goldman Sachs, because I was going to be in New York lecturing at New York University and then traveling to New York to do some work with some mid to small size accounting firms on corporate codes of ethics and all that good stuff. So I wanted to reach out to them in part because we saw Wall Street settling across the board. Of course, no criminal liabilities. They don't really go after the big ones, but there were a lot of civil settlements where in that settlement they do not admit or deny any liability. Essentially, they just write a check. It's probably 2 hours worth of profits for them. They move on. It's business as usual. So thinking that Goldman Sachs could benefit from an educated stockbroker who crossed the line and brought some damage, I would think, to UBS and Bear Stearns, where I worked previously, I called them. For transparency, I do not remember who I called. This was made 4 or 5 years ago. Do not remember who I called, but I wanted to let them know that I was in town and that I'd love to come and speak to some of their staff about ethics and how good people can make bad decisions that can bring irreparable harm. And to say I got the blow off of the century would be an understatement. Essentially, they said they had no interest in my services, which was okay. They might not have liked me, but what struck me, and again, I do not remember exactly with whom I spoke. It was a 3 to 4 minute phone call. They were probably aghast that I even got through to them anyway. What struck me was telling me they did it all internally and that they had no need for outside ethics or corporate compliance speakers. And my thoughts were you have someone in-house on Goldman Sachs's payroll giving advice on ethics. It might not align with what's most important, which is holding executives accountable, making sure they do things that align with the corporate culture. And someone might be biased if they're on the payroll talking about ethics, if their paycheck is coming from those with whom they're supposed to be teaching. And I relayed that to them, and I was hit with resistance. And I tried one more time. I said, look, I'm going to be in New York lecturing at New York University. I'll be doing some work. I would love to come by and do a little meet and greet with your staff to help them understand how one bad decision can derail everything. They had no need for it. There was no concern to discuss ethics or compliance with me. And again, I was told it was handled internally. And the issue with that is all of the settlements that Goldman and others have had throughout the years. Indeed, I wake up to read on the 11th of February, Goldman settles lawsuit over subprime debt for $27.5 million. This is probably so small for them. It's probably 30 seconds. Hold on, in the time that I just said this, they've made enough profits to cover the $27.5 million that they just paid out. And of course, in this settlement, there'll be no acceptance. Oh, here it is. All of the defendants denied wrongdoing. They just write a check, business as usual. So maybe Goldman Sachs couldn't afford to hire me. My average honorarium is about $10,000. They wanted to save those proceeds, I presume, for Hillary Clinton to earn up to $275,000 a speech. I don't follow politics. I like Hillary Clinton. I like all politicians. I hardly even follow it. In fact, one of my goals is to be successful in life, irrespective of who's in office. But I think that Goldman can shell out $275,000 for a 20 to 30 minute lecture and not spend or make a modest investments in ethics training, which frankly has a greater impact on their reputation, their business, their shareholders, and the way they're perceived around the world is startling considering the platitudes they frequently offer about putting clients first, acting responsibly, and so on. The platitudes and cliches from Wall Street is out of control. They say one thing and do another, and that might be part of the reason they didn't invite me in. For clarity, though, some firms like Wells Fargo, KPMG, the FBI Academy, and many, many more have welcomed me in and said, Justin, we want you to tell the truth. We want you to talk about corporate codes of ethics. We want to make sure that we're holding our employees accountable, irrespective of what others might think. We need this training because we know hiring one bad person can cost us $50 million. We know that engaging in the wrong deal can really tarnish our reputation. So that's the reason that some of these companies bring me in, while others say, well, you're not for us. Even the Wharton School. I was working with a professor to speak at Wharton, and I got a call that said, well, we're not really comfortable giving the stage to a felon. It doesn't apply to us. And I remember saying, isn't Rajram, if I said his name correctly, a graduate of Wharton? Wouldn't it be relevant that a graduate of yours is on his way to federal prison? Couldn't students benefit from that? And they essentially hung up on me. So my work isn't for everyone. I speak honestly, openly about white-collar crime and how good people can make bad decisions, how subtle and pernicious it is. And without ethics and a corporate code that holds them accountable, without daily practices on managing temptation, especially as your capacity and responsibility grows, that's the message that I convey, and it's what I would have conveyed at Goldman Sachs. They didn't welcome it. Perhaps when I'm in New York again, I'll reach out to them again. So I read this and laughed. This $27.5 million is probably the smallest. So they can continue to shell out $275,000 for Hillary Clinton, and they can avoid the impactful ethics and corporate compliance lessons that cost 5, 10, or pennies that take them about 1/10 of a second to actually make back. To learn more about my work, please call JP. Don't call. Email jp@thinkingofethics.com. I'd love to contribute to your corporate compliance event. I'm not right for everyone because I speak the truth and convey how a corporate code of ethics is nothing if not implemented and followed on a daily basis. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.